One recruiter just made $175,000 in placements in 3 months of working together. Another recruiter went from $150,000 in 2023 to $108,000 in January 2025 alone, all by following the system. If you don't have a system, you're making this harder, much harder than it needs to be. The Digital Recruiter Bootcamp is for recruiters like you that want a proven system that works on LinkedIn to open up the top of funnel and generate more opportunities with quality clients and candidates, people that you want more of, right? No more chasing the emails, the call, getting in front of your market, standing out, looking like the expert that you are. You have the knowledge, right? There's competition domestically, there's competition internationally. You have to be able to stand out in 2025. So you have more opportunities for closer the money activities and meetings and more time closing deals. Digital Recruiter Program makes that happen. You're not going to be relying on tech or Zoom Info or Clay. You're going to be relying on you and you getting better, because that is the key. And all the noise in the world is managers want to work with you. We got the Digital Recruiter Bootcamp. It's a year of support. It's 1 week of live coaching with yours truly, plus monthly Q&As. The next class is on March 24th. So make sure to sign up. There are limited spots available. Digital Recruiter Bootcamp membership. It is the best value in recruitment going right now. You get access to our whole system that's helped generate millions of revenue placements for recruiters, agencies, recruiters this decade. So again, hop in there, get the system, learn how to do automation and content in your profile, how to have the right conversations, the right messaging with your prospect. No more messing around. Check out the link, sign up digitalrecruiter.io/bootcamp. Make sure to get your spot today, and I'll see you in there. All right, welcome back, Digital Recruiter Podcast. I think we have the first two-time guest the Digital Recruiter Podcast, which I'm pretty excited about. And it's for good reason. Got Darren Koontz here, owner of Mavic Ventures. He's been a long-time agency owner. He's an absolute killer in the space. Typically working with a lot of high-growth startups. But what we want to talk about today is his new venture, Onyx Labs. It's going to be an exclusive marketplace connecting high-growth companies with vetted recruiters to scale their teams faster. There's going to be a contingent marketplace, an embedded marketplace. There's a lot to talk about. This is like a hot-button topic in terms of splits, right? And splits, and how can I get more of my candidates submitted and paid and do all that stuff. And he and his team are absolutely tackling all the problems, all the objections people have had with doing splits. So we're going to talk about that in this episode. Darren, thanks for coming back, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here again. I didn't know I was the first two-timer.
Yeah, man. I think
allegedly, maybe there might be another one.
I really think it is. It kind of hit me as I was like, we were talking before the recording and everything. I was like, this is the first two-timer. So, we're almost 2 years into the podcast, and it's cool. And I'm excited to talk about this. And we've been talking about this for 6-7 months now. I feel like you kind of let me know what you were doing, and I kind of gave up. Okay, I've seen, I've heard this quote unquote for marketplace and all that. A lot of people have aimed high for this mountain because it is a bear to tackle. I think a bear to tackle successfully. And I just really am interested. And I think your approach every step of the way has been really diligent and really practicing like an evolution of what you guys already do currently and how to do that properly. So I think it shows a ton of promise, and I think the fact that you've been at it so diligently is cool. So I'm excited for the listeners to kind of hear and get the inside story on kind of what that's been like. So maybe kind of just start with like Onyx Labs, like what is it? What inspired you to build it? And what's it going to be?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And right before we jump into that, I have to give you a little bit of a shout out. Because I know the first time we talked, and it was about like the content versus just like sales and doing, and all that stuff. And I put a post up that was talking about like a lot of the defense companies and stuff, and like Palantir and all of that. And there was like 4 phone calls I got after that. We're just like, hey, I saw your post, and just I really haven't talked in a while, and I wanted to reach back out. We're looking, I was like, I have to give Clark credit now.
Content works, huh? It works. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And what
it definitely 100% does.
Well, the right content works, right?
100%. Yeah.
What it works for you, and it's fun. And this is we've already gone off track, which is great. I love it. It's our style. But it's a good reminder that if you've been at it, you've been a veteran of the game, and you know your stuff, and you see some trends, and you've talked to the clients, you've talked to the candidates, you have data, right? We talked about it offline. You're winning, you're producing.
Yeah.
That's an asset that you can share with companies in the market. And I don't want content to be fluff. That's not the content that sells. The content that sells is your take on things, what you're seeing and being relevant to your ICP, and put that out there. That's an extension of your cold calls, your emails, your meetings, right? Because that's always what you're trying to establish in those meetings, those calls. So I'm like, just get ahead of the game and just post about it. Right. But post like the legit stuff, that stuff that really can only come from you. That's the magic. So I always love to see someone evolve. And to see that, because I'm never trying to fight people on that. I'm like, dude, you know your stuff. Like, let your market know that you know your stuff. And there's a right and the wrong way to format and all that stuff. So I'm glad you came around. And more importantly, I'm glad I led the 4 calls, which I'm sure, you know what you're doing. You closed a good business and turned away the bad fits and did all those good things, right?
There was a few of them I didn't call back. It was like, there's a reason we haven't talked in a while. But
that's a whole other part about, we won't get in. We probably got into that last time we recorded. But this time I definitely want to talk Onyx. I appreciate the shout out. I love content. If you're listening, make sure to post that content, right? Heed Darren's words here. Talk to me about Onyx Labs.
So Onyx is something I'm super excited about. It's been probably like built out of my brain for the last like 2 years. It's just one of those things, like, you start waking up in the middle of the night, it's just your mind running, so you're kind of like taking notes, and you kind of start just over time it kind of formulates. And so we're launching Onyx, and it's something we're super excited about. And the idea with it was really stemmed from kind of like what you're touching on, like a lot of just issues we've seen, in the recruiting world over the years, and then a lot of like kind of just opportunities that I think are kind of just now popping up that might not have been as relevant 3 years, 5 years ago. And a big one was just kind of how like fractured so much of recruiting got, to where it was just like, these either big recruiting firms, big internal teams and stuff like that. You've seen so many people go out on their own, and be successful, right? Because, you don't need a lot to be successful, on your own, when it's like, you don't need to make 100 placements, you don't need to make 50 placements. Like you're crushing it if you're making, 10, 15 placements a year just by yourself, right? Like you're absolutely crushing it, keeping all that. And so you've seen this like shift towards all these independent recruiters, smaller agencies and stuff like that. And it's been awesome to kind of see them with their own autonomy, kind of build their own little special niches of what they're good at. And honestly, they're able to like probably capture a lot more business because they're just like, they've been able to really focus on what do they do well. And so we kind of saw that. I thought that kind of just started this like opportunity now to kind of create this like this sandbox everyone can play it right together. Because the one thing you do get from a larger firm, I'm not talking like the 10,000 person firms, like the firm I started at, where I think I was like the 10th employee. And when I left, I think we're about 50, and we're doing about 650 placements a year contingently through that firm. Everybody was full desk. There's no BD team. Everyone's getting their own companies, working their own companies, and stuff like that. But you kind of get this machine created, right? To where it's like, you have all these candidates coming in from all these different teams that you can use, they can use. You're just kind of in that environment of people just hustling and grinding, right? Which is going to push you more. And so all those things you actually get from that. Because I think a lot of people, me included, right? When I left, I'm like, I'm going to start my own thing. I can work. I only need to do half the production. I'll make more money. Then you just get slapped in the face with reality real quick. I'm like, wow, there was actually a lot of benefit from that whole motion moving, And so we were really trying to wrap our head around, like, how do we kind of build that, that machine that, other recruiters or small firms can benefit from, while still having their own autonomy, and kind of creating that out. And then you kind of go into like, the splits market and stuff like that. And, a lot of the objection you hear is it's just a trust thing. I think a trust and transparency thing. It's one of those recruiters don't trust other recruiters a whole lot. If I'm going to share this candidate out with you for this role, like, do you have other roles that you're just not going to tell me about? And so I think that's where you get it. It can be difficult to really split things out unless it's someone really well, or trust. And so that kind of fractures that market a bit. And so we initially started with working to build kind of like the marketplace has 2 sides. So there's contingent recruiting and like embedded recruiting. And so to start with like the contingent side, is it's really meant to be, essentially a place like an extension to these other recruiters. Recruiters can come on, they have access to all the roles on there. They can submit and share out candidates for those roles, and they're going to earn a large percentage of that fee from doing that. There's other people that have done something similar to that. We know the names and stuff like that, of doing that. But I think adding kind of a different approach is one, like, you don't need to go as wide. You don't need 10,000 recruiters on there. So I think a big piece is kind of keeping it especially up front, is more exclusive and not in like the old boys club way, like more of just like the vetting people out, making sure like, okay, these are like recruiters that are, have the experience to really kind of impact these. That's kind of like the immediate vision, because you kind of need that. And these are recruiters that are heads down doing their own thing already. They're working on their own companies, their own roles, but they recognize that, okay, great, I got this, machine learning engineer role that I'm working on. I have a really good candidate that I found for him. And, this is the only place I have to send him, or I only have 2 roles I can send this person to. And after that, I have no more opportunity to earn off this person. And so, likelihood is you find 20, 30 really good candidates for that role. They hire one, and now you have 19 or 29 of them that went nowhere. You didn't make any money off it. You're not nurturing those relationships as much as we'd all love to. It's a time thing. And so the kind of idea was like, if you have this marketplace that you can be a part of, where it's like, okay, I'm going to submit this candidate to my 2 companies, and there's 10 other roles that this person's a fit for in that marketplace. Now I just, can leverage, kind of the opportunity to earn off of these candidates. And again, kind of tying that back to like at a larger agency. You might have made 5 of your own placements, 10 of your own placements with your own candidate, your own company, that you earned off of, but you also earned off 15 other hires that were candidates that you found that another recruiter placed somewhere that you didn't even know about, and you earned some of that. So it's kind of leveraging how to build that. But the idea is that these recruiters, can come in, they're going to be able to share out those candidates, submit them in there, have more opportunities to earn off it, have all the transparency of where the candidates are, where they're at in the process, and also have like a representation on those candidates. So like as new roles are brought into the marketplace that they're a fit for, they're getting added into those roles too. So now it's like, oh, I had 5 other opportunities to earn off this candidate. Now I have 10 other opportunities to earn off this candidate without me having to do anything more than I already did. And so that's a big piece, is kind of figuring out how do you kind of leverage that. And so I think one thing that we're doing that's, I think, different than anyone else out there is having like a layer of recruiters that sit in the middle of that. So when those candidates are submitted, you actually have recruiters that are working with all these clients to make sure that these candidates are getting through the process, seamlessly. That these are actually clients that are worth everyone's time to be working on. And so the idea is like, how do we make those 650 placements, with 50 different recruiters, but those 50 recruiters just all work on their own. And so everybody's getting to benefit from it. So it's kind of broadening the reach of all those recruiters that are already going to go make all the money they're already making. This is just added, an extra 650 placements that are going to be dispersed amongst those recruiters.
One of the biggest issue, maybe the biggest issue with the split network model and traditional, when you have people outside not sharing one logo of the agency, has been, and you alluded to it, the trust and all that comes from just because this is a game of communication, and no one qualifies business the same way or follows up in the same way, right? Or the same wording. Like, how are you verifying or getting past the submittal process, the interview, the feedback? Like, that's where things get lost, and I think the frustration happens, right? You can get just enough momentum, you can do just enough to not make the placement. I think it's a lot of times in splits and all that. Like, what are you looking at to kind of bridge that gap and get the process over the hump into a placement?
And do you mean more, or probably both of these, like evaluating
the contingent side,
everyone's time? And then also,
more of like, I got a great candidate, or what I think is a great candidate for a software engineering role, right? That passes everything. I follow the notes on there. Like, typically it's just like there's no feedback, or the feedback doesn't make sense, or it's like not a fit. It's like, well, why? Right? Well, because they don't have this. Well, actually they do have this. Like, but who do I talk to? Right? Where's your manager? Type of situation after, right? And so that's where a lot of people get frustrated, right? And some people, sometimes it's the recruiter, right? They just don't get it, and sometimes they do get it. They're really good, and they're still not getting that, right? So it's kind of like how is that? Like, I would say that's probably like the main problem I hear about. It's kind of I think stuck in purgatory.
The approach we've taken on that specifically is really having that layer of like actual recruiters that are working inside the marketplace. And when these candidates come in, they're owning that kind of company and the relationship. They're going to talk to every single candidate, because there's going to be specific things we want them to know about the company and all that. I mean, think about when you talk to a candidate for the first time, you're like, here's what the company's doing, here's where they are, here's where they've been, here's what the scope of this role is going to be, here's what they're really looking for. And so evaluating those candidates and then pushing them forward. And then there's this whole feedback loop the whole time of like any feedback coming from the company, is getting sent back. So then that recruiter can go see exactly what's happening with that candidate, because they're likely still working with that candidate on their own personal roles. Right. And so that we've seen be very helpful. The other thing too, is what you don't see with any other marketplace out here. doing like something similar, not even to like mention I'm good or bad or different. I think it's awesome that anyone's even trying it, right? Like these are problems that people need to tackle. It's not like one versus everyone else, or it's a zero sum game. Like we're going to see more of these things come up, and we should. I think it's awesome. Like you want the market to grow in general. But none of them have that. They have a couple customer success people that maybe have recruited a little bit that are kind of your intermediary between that. And so the feedback I've gotten from a lot of recruiters that have used other platforms are just like, I'm either submitting into this endless void. I'm getting no feedback. I spent 2 weeks working on this role just to get a notification that the role was closed. Or all these things where it's like just so much time wasted. And what you get is you get a lot of like B and C and D recruiters that probably stay on that platform. And all the good ones are like, this isn't worth my time. I don't need to do that. And so that's why I think one is building this to a point of like, the recruiter doesn't need to be very involved in that process after that point of sharing it. And I know that's going to be an issue for some people because they're going to want that, right? And so that's where I think having like the platform be able to like show you exactly where they're at in the process, the feedback of each stage and stuff like that, because I'm likely going to call John and talk to him about my 2 companies that I'm already working with him at, but I still know what's going on with these other ones. So when I talk with them, I go, yeah, so those interviews are going well too. How's that going? Like you can still stay relevant with them, but there's going to be those recruiters that have the experience as well that are also making sure that every candidate you get forward has the best opportunity possible to get hired by those companies. Someone that's following with the company going, dude, it's been 2 days since that interview happened. What's the feedback? What are we doing here? Okay, the role changed. We're kind of changing, what you're looking for, kind of the scope of the role. Okay, let me push that feedback back out so everyone knows about it. And so we have that built into where when you're reviewing when you look at the jobs on there, we have like what we're calling like the Onyx role brief. That's like the custom notes from the kickoffs. We'll eventually integrate like a Loom video so they can actually have the kickoffs on there. So you could come in there. The idea is for a recruiter that was not in that kickoff, doesn't know anything about this company or the role, can go in there and in about a minute know everything they would need to know as if they were in that kickoff call. So now if they want to go source on it, great. But I think ideally where it's best utilized is these recruiters going, I'm already working 2 of these different roles, or I'm already working a handful of these roles that line up with the roles on the marketplace. And so I'm just going to focus on those ones. I'm still getting these candidates I'm getting anyway. And I just have now 8 more opportunities to earn off this candidate that I already was finding and talking to anyway. And so that's where I think that helps solve some of that. But I think just having that layer of expert recruiters in the middle of it that are, doing exactly what you would be doing, but you just don't have the time capacity to take on 15 other clients and manage all that and stuff. We all would love that. We all think we can, but at the end of the day, you're just going to go too thin.
It's interesting to have. Excuse me, I lost my voice there for a second. It's interesting that, to your point, having the incentives aligned with the agency recruiters being the one involved, and that is important because the more I think about it, that probably isn't really happening in these other places. And the second you showed me the platform, a month or 2 ago, kind of where it was at. Yeah. And I did like the way you had the feedback structured and layout. The intake wasn't just a job description. It was it was clearly you had done the intake, and there was like specific bullets of like, it was an agency recruiter intake, and well done. I'm like, I could pick up this search for sure. Yeah. And there's I know there's a couple of different things that you've talked about, we're bouncing ideas off stuff you could give with keywords or getting someone jump started on something or so there's different things you could give because you're vetting the right people. And I think in you doing that, it allows you to kind of almost give people a little bit more of a boost so you're not flying blind. I think that was interesting. And I think that mixed with the incentive being aligned, this is also makes sense for the person on the other side, getting the feedback, everything else. It'll also just be proven over time the market speaks, right? And so you say all these things. I know you guys have done it kind of on your own, but as you build, that intentional building is obviously going to be important because the market will know. And the market will take and the people are going to be clamoring to get into this thing, right? So at least that's the hope. And keep down this path, they will for sure.
It is, and there's a lot of complexities to this side specifically because there's so much involvement and kind of engagement that you got to just not get initially, you got to keep getting, right? And so that's where I think at first it's let's just bring all the recruiters in we can, right? And then just get, but it's really starting small and going, let's get 5 or 10 people that just start perfecting it, and then kind of iterating, then growing it, because and eventually it's hey, how do we build, let's go build a 20-person just expert recruiting team that focuses on AI and ML roles. roles. Let's build one that focuses on engineering roles, one that focuses on product marketing. And so just anytime those roles come on, the company's benefiting because there is such, a company, the way it looks like for a company, right? If you're a startup and you come on here and you got, there's 30 different recruiters that are part of the marketplace that are actively working on, staff level machine learning engineer roles. And now you come on, you kick off your search, your role's live. All those recruiters are notified about it. They're all seeing it. Say each of them have 3 really good candidates that are actively in the process for their company. That's 90 candidates all of a sudden that are just day one coming into your pipeline. Granted, that's obviously at scale. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but that's really the idea of what we're looking to build. And so now all those recruiters are sitting there going, I already have these candidates in the pipeline. Hey, this candidate already got rejected from my company, but actually now, hey, this role just came on here. I can get them over there. I don't do anything more. They're going to take care of it. They're going to take this person through the process, keep me updated along the way. And now, I'm going to get notified that, hey, that guy got hired. Sweet. I just made 15, 20 grand. And so that's really kind of the idea. And you're not just selling that to this, just like, oh, wouldn't that be cool? It's like, that's really the way we're looking to build it. And so I think immediate need is it's going to be recruiters that have the experience. But I think a lot with, kind of like we talked about before, I think a place that it really kind of could have a pretty cool, relationship with a lot of the stuff you're doing is like at scale, like the way any marketplace does well is by bringing more and more users into it. Airbnb does well by bringing in more people that want to rent their homes out and going, hey, this is a really kind of hotbed where we're getting a lot of renters. Like we should push out kind of marketing materials to other people that have houses in that area, showing them how much money people are making. So it's like, could you build out like a whole learning and development? Think about like a recruiter that's like, hey, I'm getting into recruiting. I don't have a lot of experience, but I want to kind of do this on my own. They're coming to someone like you, right? Getting kind of just put through, this whole program of like, this is how you need to do it, how you need to think about it. And so you could create a world where like this could also be a place that recruiters can come and get the experience to be autonomous, to be by themselves and do their own thing and earn their own money, not for the marketplace. But then in turn, that recruiter is going to contribute to the marketplace, right? So you're kind of building that whole ecosystem. And so I think there's a pretty cool way that at scale, like it could be a massive opportunity to really like train and develop recruiters for themselves, right? That can go out and get their own companies and do their own thing. They're not tied to the marketplace or the platform in any way, but they're going to get that experience, go earn their own money, go be able to become a good recruiter on their own and do it the right way. And also come up in a world where this marketplace is a benefit to them and they're kind of able to capitalize on it as well. And so that's a cool future I think it could really build.
Yeah, well, that's what you have me. I put myself on mute and sent the link to my wife while because I was like, wait, I got to make sure I talk to her about this because what she's been doing on LinkedIn and with automation and everything. She had no recruiting background.
Yeah.
And started just screening in September 2023. Started sourcing in January 2024. She added like 3,000 plus new connections last year on LinkedIn across different verticals and campaigns. And I know you mentioned I have the niche and all that. Well, like she placed like 15, 20 people across different industries and niche, right? It's a couple she really liked, it got really figured out. And it's like, there's a proof point of like, hey, I can show you my campaigns. I can show you my interactions. I think even kind of, I've been sharing with you, like there's a whole different way you could evaluate recruiters based on the digital recruiter system. That I know you probably hadn't even thought about before, but I'm like, that's like, you might not even have to be super niche and have 10 years of experience. You could prove yourself. And because the best recruiters in my AirTech office, I felt like I was one of them. Like I knew we knew they were great within weeks. Right. And so it's like, you didn't need 10 years of experience. Like, we just need the ones that get it. And there's different ways now to show that you're a recruiter that gets it or that can adapt pretty quickly to certain skill sets and messaging and you understand the approach. And I do think that's where some of the intersection is going to be and where you're able to have a newer opportunity and stuff like a digital recruiter. I could like talk to you like, hey, I see this person, that person, like they're running the system. They're able to adapt and take an intake and they know how to screen. Like, hey, you might not need 5 years of experience. Hey, or they're an industry expert. They're working in the industry. They're trying to build a side hustle recruiting agency, right? Hey, they have the industry knowledge. They're building the campaigns. They can do this stuff behind the scenes. They can't go public on LinkedIn yet, but like this could be a fit, right? So it's just interesting. Like there's different opportunities there and I think the old way of like how you look at a recruiter with experience, it's like, well, there should be enough data now that you can kind of see. You could interview a recruiter and be like, well, show me your campaigns.
Yeah. What are you
Like, show
doing
me the
right
connection
now?
rate, show me the reply rate, right?
Yeah.
And for the recruiters, it's like you don't have to use your in-mails for splits. Like, use your connection requests, which I
Yeah.
always tell people, like, leverage connection requests. They're sitting there to
Yeah.
be used. You can use 2 to 250 a week that you can work on what you're working on, and you can build those like bread and butter campaigns, or those like, you go into Onyx and you see like, man, if I could just get some software engineers in San Francisco right now, or in Austin or whatever, like I could submit them to like 6 different roles. Like, let me run a campaign and see what's up. And so like that's like the evolution. I think you're building something to completely be open to that, because it's going to be
100%.
a different rating. I think that's what's interesting. Like, that's where like my vision goes to in terms of like the mesh and the collaboration with marketplaces, but also systems and intelligent, intentional automation. It's going to reward, as always, well-qualified roles,
Yeah.
good sourcing, good targeting, and good messaging, right? Which is all tied together.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think just building more of that community around it. And then, the flip side too is like, could you be a recruiter or an agency that's going to bring your roles into the marketplace? You sit as that talent expert that's working between the company and all the other recruiters submitting candidates. And now you're able to leverage kind of the power of that as well. And so kind of it goes both ways, right? So you could kind of build it out to be able to do both those, to where I can come and get access to all these different roles. And I know there's a recruiter in between that's actually doing the job, and not just someone that's like, I'm not relying on, a founder to take all these candidates through the process that has 100 other things to do, or some internal recruiter at that company that just maybe they're good, maybe they're not, right? And we've all seen that. I mean, I always kind of fall back on like a good continuing recruiter. If you sit back and go, how many of my placements, last year would not have happened if it wasn't for just me being involved in the process, and maybe me is not the most special person ever, but just a good recruiter that knows what they're doing, that's following up with the company, that's following up with the candidate. They're at, hey, what else do you have going on your pipeline? How does this opportunity stack up against us? So you, throughout the entire process, how realistic is this person? What are the kind of the real things this person's looking for in their next job? So, I mean, we just had it with one of our lead recruiters. He's going to hate that I tell the story, but because it's kind of corny. But he was we're working with a seed funded startup. They got about $4 million in funding. They're about to close a $20 million Series A. But early stage startup, it has this candidate go through the process. He's just worked at larger companies, and he was just from the beginning, the first conversation, he's like, I've always wanted to go to a startup. Every time I change jobs, I interview at all these startups, I get offers, but then I end up just going to Amazon, or I just get a bigger company that comes in, and I just kind of take the money. And so he's like, I'm not doing that this time. Fast forward, goes to the interview process, getting the offer from the startup we're working at him with, and has an offer from Facebook and 2 other companies. And he's like, I don't know. It's like this hard decision. And he literally, like, our recruiter's just sitting there, just like, he goes, listen, like, from our first conversation, you told me that this is exactly what happens every single time. Now you do what you want to do. Like, either way, you get a high five from me. Like, my job's not to force someone in to go to a company they don't want to go to or tell you what to do. It's a big, important decision. But like, I do feel like we kind of counsel people through this all the time, and he goes, you've told me that from the beginning, you wanted to go to a startup every time you end up going to a larger company, and you're not going to do it this time. Like, you've walked up to the door, you've opened the door, you just need to step in now, or you're going to just do the same thing you've done every single time. The guy ends up accepting the offer. Fast forward, he's stoked there. He's loving it. They're about to raise a big round of funding. He's emailing our recruiter, like, thanking him for like just pushing me through that, like, and like really guiding me. And so it's not that he tricked him into doing something or anything, but it's just that, like, that's part of our job, is building relationships with candidates, with companies, and really kind of, as you interview a bunch of people, refocusing on like, yeah, but this is what you were hiring for, or hey, yeah, this is what you were looking for. Like, you make your own decision. I'm not here to force you into it or tell you what to do, but like, I am kind of helping to guide through this. And everything you've told me is that you don't want to go to that company, but now that offer is there, you kind of lose sight of those things. And so we just kind of help reevaluate that. And so it was kind of a good example of like, without him doing that, that guy would not have taken that job and stuff. So it's a good example of like, without a recruiter being involved and having that trust from that candidate, that deal would not have gotten done.
If you're listening to this and you're thinking about it, you now know what the standard is to work, right? And the candidate management, the relationship, and people always ask me, how do I follow up with people? I'm like, well, how did the first call go? What questions did you ask? Because based on what you asked, what the answers were, I'll tell you what the follow-up should be. Right? But if you didn't get the right stuff in the beginning, good luck getting it at the end of the process.
Or if you're not following up with it, if you talk to a candidate, you submit them into a company, next thing you know, the company's like, hey, we think we're going to make an offer on this guy or girl. And you're like, oh, hey, John, how's it going? It's Darren again. Remember we talked like 3 weeks ago? Like, he's like, dude, screw you. Like, you don't care about me. You just care that I might get an offer and you want me to take it. Like, there's no trust or rapport built there. And so it's when you're following up after each interview, like how'd it go on your end? Great. Like, I don't even have feedback from the company yet. I just want to know how it went on your end. Like, do you feel like you left there more excited? Do you have more questions? Like, what can I do for you? Kind of like, and really build that relationship, and be able to kind of take them, through that process instead of just like only talk to them when you might be making money, because it's going to come across that way.
Absolutely. Kind of consultative, transactional. Yeah, the post-interview recaps, it's like, it's huge.
It's be human. When you talk to them, hey man, how's your week going? What are you doing? Like, what else you guys got any plans this weekend? Like, you start building that relationship with someone, which it's really easy to do in person, but so much of our job is done over the phone and email. So again, how are you going to stand out? How are you going to be different? It's not like rocket science. It's do the little things that we all know you should be doing. But just make the effort to do it. And they're not time consuming. It's just doing what you should be doing anyway. I bet you if you're a recruiter that's not doing those things like religiously, and you just forget or whatever, like make the point to do it. I guarantee you're going to double your placements from last year. If you have the activity and they're just not landing, you work backwards, reassess what's going on. It's probably that,
especially with the higher level, I mean, any level stuff, but there's such an opportunity to give candidates a different experience and clients, right? A different experience because they've worked with recruiters. A lot of what you do, people get hit up with recruiters all the time. So I'm sure you guys have learned, like, we have to do this to stand out and give a different experience and get the buy-in. And when you do, that's how you land any placement, really the big placements. And it's just, then you get messages like, "You're the best recruiter I've ever worked with," and yada, yada. It also builds a rapport, even if the client does screw something up or is kind of a meathead about whatever. It's like, hey, this is a new client. We're working with them. I apologize. Like, we're trying to work through, or it's an experienced client. I'm not sure what's going on, but I'll be able to figure it out, right? Like, it kind of, you have both going on, and recruiters like, or candidates like, man, I'm getting like, I feel secure ahead of time. I feel like, and when they have a few different offers, to your point, it's just a lot easier to guide them where they need to go because you've done that work on the front end, you've checked in, and sometimes like you do the double screen. Like, we had a role where we kind of realized like it was more relocation, so we would talk to them, make them talk to the spouse, and then talk to them again before we submit them over. They're like, get ahead of it because we're getting killed on the counter offers and relocation with the first two candidates. And so it's like, you just have to do what's going to land the deal. And to land a deal like that, both parties are going to have to be happy. Right. And so it's just like reverse engineering like that piece of it, because we're only the matchmakers. And so I love it, because if you're building a marketplace around that philosophy, that's why, again, I was trying to have you on here. Like, that's the difference. And if you're listening to this, I know the other platforms, they're not emphasizing that. They're not talking about that in this way, in this way. And so it might be hard to get in, right? Darren might not let you right in right away, but like, you kind of know what the standard is, right? And how to achieve. And I'll kind of ask, we haven't talked about the embedded yet, but like, how would you recommend like being the recruiter that's like, you guys are going to vet and like keep in, like bring in and keep and all that? Like, what's the standard you're looking for there?
It's not even like, I would say not even, part of it's just going to be the experience. Like, they've done there, they've seen the results, they've seen the success, but a lot of it's like, you talk to people and you can tell that like, okay, they get it. Like, the one, it's going to make sense. You're going to have some people that are just so worried about how are you going to screw me 100 different ways? And it's like, and I understand, like, those are objections you should be able to talk through, and you should be able to show them that, right? This is actually, we built it this way. So you don't have to worry about that. But the idea is like, you're going to get people that are just like, no, I don't need that. I'm good. Right. Or that, and that's totally fine. There's people that are going to do well, that see the benefit of it. There's going to be people that go, well, what if I would have gotten an offer on that candidate on my own, but he got an offer through the marketplace, now I made less, right? Totally valid question. But I think at the end of the day, someone that's done this long enough, they're going to know that I'm going to make way more off the candidates that I would have made nothing off of than that one fringe thing of happening. But I think just it's people having like the understanding and going like, I see that I've done this long enough to realize that there's a lot of money I'm leaving on the table, and there's not really anything else I can do about it. I don't have 10 more roles to send that candidate to. I don't have the time to stay in touch with all these other candidates that once my company's rejected them, and just nurture this massive candidate pool I have when I don't have anything for them. And so there's a lot of those, I think, just people that have done it long enough to really understand that and see like, okay, this is actually looking to like, be an extension to me. and give me more opportunities to earn off of this. This sounds awesome, and this is an opportunity for everybody involved in that placement to win, right? And so that's what I'd say a lot more. I'd say anyone that's gone through your deal, if you go through the digital recruiter, we'll give you a golden ticket into the marketplace.
Let me figure out what that is, but yes, you get a gold ticket.
A golden ticket to come through. But yeah, I would say more of that. It's more of the recruiters that are looking and thinking about it the right way, and understanding that, they yes, I want my autonomy and to be able to recruit on my own when I want and how I want, and I get to work for my own companies 100%. That's what we all want. And those are the people that are going to be the most successful here, the people that are going, I'm out there just grinding on my own, and I understand that this can put more money in front of me without me having to go do a bunch more. I don't have to necessarily do anything more. I'm already talking to this candidate and putting him forward, and now I'm getting over here, and you're going to take it from there. And that the marketplace is built to be able to support that on the contingent side. So that's what I would say is a lot of the recruiters that just are really looking for it. I think someone that needs this because they can't do it on their own, or they don't know BD as well, I think that can still be successful here. But if this thing gets the thing I've seen with talking to a lot of recruiters that's their main struggle. It's not that everyone can use more companies, right? I don't mean that, but I mean someone that just literally doesn't have the experience to go do that. I think where they struggle is that they are hoping for the immediate fix, and that I don't still need to do anything. And so for me, it's I don't care really what your numbers are and stuff like that, or what you've done, but it's just what are you doing to get better? What do you do? What are you learning? What do you on your own time? How are you going? I see I need more experience here, and I'm using ChatGPT, trying to research how can I do better things this way. Having it give me objections that I can work on how to overcome that on a call. There's a lot of these tools where everyone wants to say oh, it's just not working, or this isn't working, or that's not working. The market sucks. But it's what have you done to do anything different than what you're doing before? And that's the biggest question. I feel most people I talk to, they kind of I just did more BD, and you're no, so that's where I feel a lot of people I talk to, I'm kind of okay, come back, get a better answer to that question. Let's talk again, because and I think everyone needs to kind of be pushed that way if they're not doing those things, because it's all about what are you doing to improve yourself? What are you doing to become an expert in? All of those things, just go figure it out and put the effort into learn and educate yourself in different things. Or, hey, I see all this money going to this area, about the defense companies, all this VC money, it's all going towards that American dynamism portfolios. A16Z came out their own portfolio on that. 8VC just announced their sixth fund. It's about $1 billion, and it's just all going back towards rebuilding, whether it's infrastructure, healthcare, defense companies, AI, all those types of things about what's going to further kind of these industries. Okay, if I haven't worked on those types of roles, go look at what those companies are hiring for. Go try to download the job description. Just start trying to find candidates. Do a mock search. Just get on LinkedIn and start being can I find a candidate that I think is a good fit for this person? Oh, now I start seeing candidates from this company coming in my search. I'm probably on the right track. Now you're actually going to get a better understanding of those types of roles, where to find them, and you're going to have a lot more confidence reaching out to those companies and trying to work with them now.
I love it. I had a post yesterday. It was just simple, and I just people will invest in everything but the one thing that matters, and themselves.
Yep. 100%.
Tech, it's the Zoom info. It's been driving me bonkers, Darren. I can't even tell you how bonkers it's been driving me. Of just they bought the course. Maybe someone it was going to do one-on-one coaching, because I had the plan, the vision for them. We taught this is what you need, but in a rush to do everything, I'm going to get Zoom info. $2,000 a month. 2 weeks later, they're it doesn't work for what I needed to do. I was I could have told you. You know what I mean? Because it's it wasn't the tool anything she needed to just get out of her own way.
Yeah.
And just this is what's working right now in BD and in sales in 2025, right? This is what. Sure enough, she went back to what she invested in the course, and I kind of ripped her stuff up, her campaigns apart, her content apart. I'm stop using AI to write to think for you, right? And stop coming up with crazy sequences where you're pitching yourself and the messaging.
Yeah.
She stops doing that. What happens? Inbound leads, immediately, and meeting set and everything else. I'm that's it, because it was her the whole time. But it's scary. It's scary to admit that you're the one that has to get better.
Yeah, 100%.
And especially if you're not at a spot where you're I feel like I'm far behind. I'm not where, but you know what? Everyone has rough patches. I got broke at 24. I got broke again at 33. I bounced back both times. Like,
Yeah.
it is what it is. But some of my best moments were actually in that time period where I was just like, I'm just going to commit to being a great worker and a great learner. And being on that path, no matter how much is in the bank account or how much I'm making, like, that's always been the most rewarding, and where like stuff actually happens. It's like betting on myself to get better, and just be honest, like, hey, I'm not at the place where I've earned that type of business or earned that type of candidate. So like, let me go get better, right? Doesn't mean that you got to go put a coaching program on the credit card, go into debt. I'm not saying that, right? But to your point, like, wherever you're at, there are steps to be had and to take. And it's like, am I relying on someone else to do the work? Am I trying to outsource my results, or am I going to get it myself? Right. And there's people that can help you get results and tools that can help you, but it's got to come from you first.
Yeah. And I think a big piece too is it's like, it's as cliche as it is, taking a step back, take a step forward, right? Like, some people go, well, I can just pay for Zoom info and just, it's going to immediately help me, you know, and it's not. It's like, it's one of those things. It's like when you're working at your desk, you're working with a bunch of companies that are going nowhere, right? Like, and the thing you need to do is just clear your desk. Just get rid of them, go get new companies. But like, you can't, because you're the gambler and you're just going like, but what if one of these companies just pop? What if one of these, you need to like take a step back, take a few weeks, perfect something, fix something, and then go back at it. And it's going to pay off dividends all around. Like, and that's the part I think I'm sure you talk to people all the time, and they're like, I don't want to pay this for the, you know, for this service or this coaching thing, but I'm going to spend $15,000 on Zoom info and 20 other tools that are doing kind of all the same thing. You know, because that makes sense, right?
It's crazy. It's like, I got stories for days, but I think of one recruiter comes to mind. I can't remember if I talked about this podcast this year, but there's a few different examples. And one guy that's been at it for a while. He's 150K a year in 2023. He had 180K a month in January. You know, using the process in a year. He proved 50% growth last year, but that was like almost 11 months into like using the system religiously every day. That completely shattered. Right. And other time he's a solo guy, right? Lifestyle business is like, I'm having a great time. You know, I'm with my family, go to volleyball games and making reggae CD. I mean, that's great, but which is all kind of fun, right? But the one is like, there's a biotech recruiter that's been at the industry for a long time. Great. Never posted on LinkedIn, never used automation or anything else. Right? Really super nice guy, but affected by the hurricanes in North Carolina. Like, literally the day we were supposed to have our discovery call, he got hit with the hurricane like 6 hours before. He still took the call from his daughter's phone. I'm like, what are you doing? Get off the phone with me. Go take care of what you got to take care of. But he was like, no, I'm adamant about, like, I was like, I know you can help me. We fixed this up his profile. He made one post. He hadn't even leveraged that outreach campaign yet. But that post was just the formatting, taking one of his stories, turned into an inbound client. Within 90 days, two $50,000 placements each, so over $100K in revenue. I think he just landed the finals in $65,000 for the other one. That's going to be $165K, fixing a profile and one content post.
Yep.
No automation, no nothing else. I mean, and he added that. Now he's connecting at 60% because he's so dialed into his niche that he's just like, that's like on autopilot for him now. But it's like, so many people are sitting on a gold mine. They just need help getting out of their own head from a trainer. How do I leverage this? It's not more tech. It's all that. It's like, how do I leverage what I already have? And that is what's so fun to me and exciting about that. Why it's like, good coaching, good mentorship is better than ever. I had our sales coach in December just to listen to my calls. I needed someone to listen to my calls again, and it's changed my life. I mean, I'm like, why did I ever stop doing this? It was so stupid. I didn't need any tech or anything else. Actually, I cut a bunch of my tech and just invested in him and did that. And I was just like, this is what I need. Yeah. It's just it's just hard to hear it back sometimes that it's me.
Yeah. Well, it's that, and it's that just like, something, like, you're not doing something, you can do something better, but it's like, I feel like a lot of people will just how I've always done it. That sounds good that you do it that way and that works, but like, they stick to like what they knew and what worked. It's like, these industries are constantly evolving. You have to evolve with them, like and I get the argument. And well, 10 years ago, I did just fine with no automation. You're like, totally, 100%. And 10 years ago, you could also pick up the phone and call everybody you wanted to talk to, and all these different things, right? Like, but it's just, and even if not, like, try it, have it work in the background. But a lot of times it's just easy to be like, yeah, that doesn't work. It's not for me. just because you don't want to put the time in to figure it out, and learn it. You just got to resort back to what's comfortable, what's easy, because that's what you've been doing.
It's like, what if it does work, right? Because I always look at stuff like it's working for someone, but it's like, how do I make it work for me? Do I have already? Do I have it what it takes, or can I expedite my learning curve and all that stuff? And I think just that is so important when we talk about this marketplace and to succeed in it. And we'll talk about the embedded side here in a second as well. But like, I always tie back to coaching, number one, because I'm a coach and that's what I care about. And, that's what do we do here? But it's so going to hit marketplace and tech and all that. It comes back to, if you want the results and the grow, like it is that. And it just sparked when you're talking about your lead recruiter and that story. It just sparked, like, at the end of the day, that matters. Like how we had the initial conversation, the follow up. You could do anything else. You got to coach you all day. But if you don't do that stuff, none of it will matter, or it won't. You won't ever maximize, I would say, the potential and your desk and get the most out of your own desk or a marketplace like Onyx or anything else. It's just that theme keeps coming up over and over, especially this year, because I think people are getting burnt out a little bit on tech and tools and AI. And it's like, okay, like I've tried all this stuff. What actually works? It's the fundamentals. Right? But you have to understand what's different than 10 years ago. The fundamentals of being a great recruiter haven't changed, but how you get to your people has changed because anyone can build an automation. Anyone can say they're a recruiter nowadays and look like a legitimate recruiter in an hour. Versus 10 years ago, it was a lot harder to do that. There wasn't the automation tools. LinkedIn wasn't what it was now. And there wasn't email, the email and all this other stuff. So it's like, it is just different. And what has changed is we've changed. The amount of noise we get changes and everything else. But you also have to understand that there's like cultural changes happen too. And stuff that what you can get away with 5 years ago is different than, you get away with now. And sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's not a good thing. Right. But it's like, to your point, if you don't keep up to date with that, it's really hard to sustain success, I would say.
And it just goes with that being a constant learner. The student of the game. That's like every sports analogy ever. But it's just whether that's learning and getting into new roles you haven't worked before, trying out new tools you haven't used before, test it out, see if it works, see if you can get it to work for you. Talk to someone that's used it. See how other people are using it. Okay, that one worked, that one didn't. But like, and one of the other things too, I like to demo every new product that comes out for recruiting, because I can't tell you how many times that's helped my conversations with companies. When they're like, well, we're thinking about this. It's like, honestly, like I actually demoed that. Here's my opinion. Here's kind of how I can see it working well on this, but this is kind of where, they kind of sell you on this, but it doesn't happen. And now you're instantly just like an expert to that person. You're instantly like, they trust you so much more, and so it's just those little things like that, and if that's not how your mind works, like start figuring out how to shift that mindset a little bit. Like, you don't need to do it all tomorrow. Like, just kind of start like thinking of like, what's one thing I need to improve on, or I'm not doing that I know I should. Like, pick up a book and read it, or something. Like anything. Like, just start doing something other than like, okay, I got done working. Now
the bare minimum.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Invest in your craft is what I'm hearing from it, and like that is. It's so true. Like that is the people that win, is that they invest in their craft. And people ask me like, oh, who doesn't succeed? I'm like, it's the person that jumped from niche to niche. It's the person that got so offended about a rejection email that the company didn't go with them. And they're like, well, you didn't help me write a response. I'm like, there is no response. The response is checking in 6 weeks to see how the option that they went with is going. There's nothing you could say in the moment that's going to change their mind. Right. It's, it's like dating and stuff like that. We don't have to go down that rabbit hole, but you got to let things breathe a little bit and let people see that they made the wrong decision and stuff like that, right? It's like, but to your point, like, you have to have it now or have to have it yesterday. Like, that's not agency recruiting is gonna be tough on you. That's the key, right? Like patience, persistent, right? As Keely Flood talks about it, he was like, be patiently persistent. It's like that's the move, like that's the name of the game. So anyways, but hey, I want to talk about the embedded recruiting side. I want to make sure we wrap up within the hour. There was the contingent side we talked about. Talk to us about the embedded side.
Yeah, no, the embedded side, I feel like, I don't know if I should say this out loud. I think I'm maybe like more excited about that side, honestly, just because like the immediate impact it can have. I mean, so the embedded side, I think like the real thought process here is think about if you're a company and you go hire a recruiter. Think whether it's like, I'm working with an RPO firm, or I'm just going to contract a recruiter into my own startup myself, or I'm going to hire an internal like full-time recruiter. Like, what process do you go through to find that recruiter? And like, I mean, good luck posting that job. Like, you're going to get absolutely destroyed. So what we're really building is like, if you're a recruiter that, whether you're internal or you embed internal, or you take on some like, kind of like embedded engagements or whatever that is, like, and you got a LinkedIn profile, you should have a profile on this platform. And so essentially what we're building is a place for companies to be able to come and use search functions that are going to like actually describe like exactly who they need and the experience they need, and filter out all the noise. So imagine being a startup and being able to be like, I need a senior recruiter that has experience, at a seed or Series A startup, that's worked on engineering, product, and sales, hiring before, is in Austin, right? Or maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe they're remote, maybe they're open to a hybrid schedule or whatever. Enter. And it's just, here's this 35 recruiters that have that exact experience. There's no way to search that right now. Like on LinkedIn, you can't have that search. It blows my mind to get on top a little bit. LinkedIn, you can't even search like time zones. Like, you have to put in every state. You can't just be like, I want PST. Like, people like in that, which blows my mind. But there's no way to search for that right now. And so what we're looking to build is essentially, recruiters will come build out their profile on this. It'll sit live. They can make it active, inactive based off when they're open to work. On that, and it's going to highlight the experience that matters. The experience at the stage of companies they worked at. Maybe it's larger companies post IPO. It's going to put the logos up there. Companies that helped scale. You're going to put the candidates you've helped get hired before. So a company can come on there and literally look at the companies you've scaled. Here's some people that you've helped hire at those companies. Well, okay, these people all look like the types of people I'd want. I know you now have that experience. It doesn't matter, like, it's not all about like anyone can put anything on their LinkedIn profile now, right? So the idea is that these recruiters are going to come here, they can build up those profiles. And then essentially the way that the search and ranking and recommendations will work is a company's going to come on and they'll come in. That's how they're going to find you. They're going to be able to come here and be like, I need a recruiter that's worked at this stage of startup, has experience scaling these types of teams. And I'm going to see exactly who has that experience, that's built these profiles out on this platform. I can engage with them directly there. It's going to have whether it's full-time employee, what their salary, expectations are, or their rate if they're embedding into a company. The companies can engage with and talk to you, interview you, bring you onto their team seamlessly. And you make, as a recruiter, 100% of whatever your rate is, all that stuff, as it should be, right? So the idea is really building like this embedded platform is just a way for these, like, probably mainly startups, but companies in general, to be able to find the recruiters that have the exact experience they need, like in a very seamless, vetted out process. So the companies out of these recruiters actually have that experience. They're going through the vetting process and all of that. But just to be able to like directly find that, a recruiter can sit there and when they're, looking for an opportunity can, become searchable. And then we're essentially one of the big pieces that we're going to be doing is it's educating the market, like educating the startups on this. Is if you need to hire internal recruiters for your team, whether it's full-time, it's embedded for 3 months, 6 months, just open-ended, this is where you go. And so, I've talked to hundreds of, founders, co-founders, heads of talent, VP of people that like, this is the pain point they have. When I need to bring on a recruiter, like internally, I'm not looking to go contingent. We're looking to bring someone on internal. I'll reach out to my network. I'll ask people that I know, what recruiters have they worked with privately, because I don't want it even to be public that I'm looking for this. And so talking with them, that's kind of how we've developed this and building this out, is with a lot of that in mind. And then talking with a lot of the candidates go through that process. But this will be something that flips the RPO model on its head. Any recruiter that works in an RPO, you should have a profile on this. You don't need to sit on the sidelines and wait for your RPO firm or the sales team to find a client for you to jump into. You're going to come here and you can go to work for yourself. Let this be your sales arm. Let this be your BD arm. And you're going to make 100% of that rate. They're not going to tack on a 75% margin on top of you. It's going to be, I think, better for the recruiters, better for the companies.
I like it. If I'm a recruiter listening, I'm pretty pumped up right now. Yeah, in terms of potentially just getting business handed to me based on just what I've already done well. The question people are going to have is it live and how do I sign up?
Yeah, so that one will be, give me a month and a half. We should be live. We're working on the development right now.
Q2 2025, early Q2.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it'll be here soon. And so what we'll do is we'll start pushing that out once it's live for recruiters to start create their profile. It takes 2 minutes, maybe. You come in, you create a login. You can do that. The beauty is recruiters can also flip back and forth, so they can build that out for the embedded side. But maybe they're embedded with a company right now. They can still access the contingent side. So there's a lot of recruiters that are internal that, hey, I've got all these good candidates coming to me that I can leverage these. And so they kind of get access to both if they want it. But we'll put a big push out for that probably about the next month and a half when that's live for recruiters to start building it out. And then on the company side, it's awesome because we're making it like they come to this page. It's kind of like that, like when you log on to ChatGPT, right? It's just like that, like tell me the type of recruiter you're looking for. It takes them like a minute. I need a senior level recruiter. Great. What do they experience a certain stage of startups? Okay, and they can just click. It makes this like really seamless kind of onboarding process. And then essentially, they answer those prompts, which is also helping match them to the recruiters that have that experience. And then they can, at the end of that, start searching, live through essentially the marketplace of recruiters that are on there, start engaging with them directly. It's not like this thing where there's this middle person in the between. And honestly, like our role as a marketplace through that is just to make sure both sides have an awesome experience. Make sure that recruiters are having a really good experience and getting what they need out of that, making sure the companies are having a good experience. And it's really kind of solving those issues. All of the, like for embedded type engagements and stuff like that, like all contracts, the company can just seamlessly just, I'm going to hire this recruiter onto our team, on a 6-month contract. All that contracting is handled internally. The recruiters are paid, on time through the platform and everything. So it just makes it like super seamless. For a recruiter that is embedding internally, it's your payroll system, it's your everything, and it's where you find the companies, and obviously you go work for that company. Say that engagement's rolling out, you're winding down, you can trigger, profile back on active, say I'll be available in 3 weeks. And people can start engaging with you again. And so it's really looking to kind of just build that ecosystem of like, it's something I wish LinkedIn's already done. I don't know why they haven't. They have a lot of other things they're doing, I'm sure. But it's the fact that it is so difficult for companies to go find this. And so that's where we're starting. At a grand scale, I think we'll roll that out to every go-to-market function you can hire for. Yeah. Marketing, sales, everything. Because there's no reason you can't just add those different types of skill sets, different types of vetting processes, and stuff like that to ensure that kind of have that kind of whole like marketplace for all those people to actually like, this is where I can go. People know that I'm vetted. People know that I have this experience, and can find that. So we like at a grand scale, we see it opening up a lot more than just recruiting, but that's where we're obviously starting. It's what we know, but we're working with some marketing experts, sales experts too, that are kind of like, okay, if you were building this for how you would hire, what does it need to have? And so we'll probably, future releases will open it up to probably anything on the go-to-market side.
Yeah, that's there's a lot that this can evolve into, and I have no doubt will evolve into. Dude, super cool. Well,
my goal is to have so people have a little tagline on their LinkedIn, like I found this job with Onyx Labs.
That'd be sick.
That's the goal. Have it common enough that you're seeing that. I got this role on Onyx Labs, like just through like any of the go-to-market functions.
Yeah, founded by Onyx Labs, developed by Digital Recruiter. So that's what I want to see on there. It's super cool breakdown, really impressive. I think the vision, the framework, the infrastructure, and I've seen some of it, at least, from a few weeks back. And I have no doubt that you're going to get to where you want to get to with this thing. And I think even open up more opportunities that you might not even be aware of. And I think it'll be cool to see where this all evolves into. But definitely check out Onyx Labs, like on the episode page. We'll have the website in there. Make sure to connect with Darren on LinkedIn and stay up to date. Every listener to this should definitely be connected with Darren, given what you're building. And I know you and I are going to come up with ways, I'm sure, to partner or cross train or do something as we keep this going. And you'll finally have that you'll be forced to work with a recruiting coach in some way, shape, or form. That's a little inside joke for the first time Darren and I connected and met, wondering how content actually worked and if people were just talking that talk. Any last things that you want to leave for the listeners?
Oh, geez. I honestly, go learn something new. Go become an expert in whatever you're doing. Like that's my challenge to everyone all the time. Like think outside of the box, like find an area to improve and improve on it. Or just go, what's something new that you're interested in? Like, what are you doing to become an expert in your space? Like challenge everybody. Go do that. I dare you to go do that. Go get better at one thing. It will just snowball. Like that's the advice you give everybody. Like, but you got to go do it yourself. I can't do it for you. No one else can.
Dude, I love it. Amen to that. That was great advice. Darren, appreciate you having on. Appreciate you coming on again, my friend. This is awesome. And congrats to the new venture. I'm excited to see this thing grow and succeed. I know it will.
No,
So yeah,
thank you. No, thank you for having me. This is awesome.
yeah.
Excited to. I'm stoked about it. It'll be a wild ride for this one. I'm sure.
Absolutely. Well, appreciate you guys tuning in. Stay tuned. Make sure to download, subscribe, 5 stars, all that. I'm still negating the one-star rating I got a couple years ago when I started this thing. So I'm trying to I got my way back up to 4.6. So give us some love, give us some 5 stars, and let's boost the Digital Recruiter podcast here together. Dan, appreciate you. Awesome conversation. Until next time, y'all. Happy hunting.
Thank you.